Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I am Retty Ford, this is Greyjoy91,
Hello.
and this is Antoine Bandelay.
Be water, my friends.
Take us away with the introduction to this episode, Matt.
Okay, this is Book 2, Episode 12, entitled The Serpent's Pass. Though if you're watching this on like a DVD or Blu-ray, I might call it something like Journey to Bossing Say Part 1 or something like that.
It's called the Fire Nation's Secret, is what the two-parter is called.
Is it?
Okay,
as a
because I
clump.
think they called it something different when they released it as like a special two back to back, and then they called it something else on the DVD, and then really just this episode is called The Serpent's Pass.
And they are very much distinctly separate as well. They're not like the usual two-parters where they're kind of vaguely connected. It's just this one ends and the other one starts, which isn't that different from the usual. So
the Fire Nation's Secret seems like the least appropriate like title after at the end of the day, I should say.
that calls to mind the histories between the Roku and the Fire Lord as well. That's what I think when I hear that, not these two episodes at all.
Or the Day of Black Sun or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, in any case, this is the Serpent's Pass. This is the gang, and I guess Zuko and Iroh are trying to get into Bossing Say very, very slowly and ineffectually. So yeah, let's get into it.
Opening up with the gang chilling once again. Sokka working on the maps, and the others just messing around, including, in fact, it actively hindering him working on the maps because water splash. As they
I'm
want to
okay
do.
with it because they were having a lot of fun, and I really love the animation on Katara's, like, what'd you call it? Water ball or water cannon ball?
I can't even remember.
Whatever.
Water bomb, I think.
Whatever she said. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
But poor Sokka gets the short shrift of all of this. Like, I'm trying to do this work, and you're just once again just splashing me with your water bending every time. But yeah, main purpose of the intro here is obviously to get the impression of Aang clamping down on his emotions.
Right, which is what the whole episode is kind of about thematically for him, which I like when we get this from Aang, when he's not just the perfect monk kid, but he does, the way he reacts to situations sometimes isn't like the best way, and to shut down yourself completely is not the way to do it.
The part I like is that he actively tries to incorporate his lessons as a monk. He's trying to... Even he, to a certain extent, knows that what he's doing is wrong, and the way he's kind of applying it is bending it. But he's doing it for his own sake. It's part of his flaws. It's not just a case of, I'm going to do this stupid thing because I'm a flawed character. It's a case of, I'm going to draw on this knowledge I have, and even if I'm warping it to an extent it wasn't meant to be, even though even that level could be argued one way or the other, it's applying it to what we know from him as a character.
Is the people wouldn't be able to tell probably, but is this, because it's been so long since we recorded the last one, is this right after Appa is missing? Is this the episode right after that?
He was missing after the library, and then the desert happened.
Okay.
And it's now. So it's been a whole episode and a half-ish since Appa's been gone.
This is the first time this is the first time we've seen him react to it.
Right, because before he was still
down
in
outside of his rage,
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the impetus for this
kind of
change
like
of heart.
winding down.
Yeah, this is the impetus of a change of heart. He doesn't like the fact that he lost control. We get that later in the episode when it's discussed. This is a reaction to him. I don't want to feel like that again, which is another part of it I like. We're getting the reason for his reaction on multiple levels, which is very Avatar. Literally in this case.
So the plot today comes by way of the refugees. I love how most of an outside force that comes out to them to give them the plot, whether it's an old man
someone
or
just
a
wanders
villager,
upon them in the middle of the woods.
It hasn't been an old man in the woods for quite some time, so that's good.
But they're still in the woods and still having people wander into them, so it vaguely counts. But yeah, this is one of the nicer examples. But and we have actually seen these people before. We saw them in Zuko Alone. It was the same pregnant couple by the fire, so it's nice to get that kind of through line. And they appear again later as well for Zuko himself.
Well, yeah, it's good because they're all connected because they're all in the same area right now, traveling in the same direction. So it all makes sense that these characters will recur. And then the fact that when they get to the full Moon Bay, that we see Iroh and literally Zuko are leaving as they come in. So that's really cool.
It's nice to get that sense of space and have it be kind of tied to the plot still. It's not just, oh, look, we're in the same world. It's actually relevant to where they're going and how they're traveling there. It's nice to kind of feel like you're a part of it.
So my understanding, is it that this area is protected because of the Serpent's Pass itself? It's on the east side of it, and that's the reason why it's a safe?
Oh, yeah. The implication is that the ferry's going along one side and that it's protected by the pass, and the Fire Nation on the other, I believe, is the case anyway. That's how I was
Because they're working
envisioned
on
it.
their big secret. They're working on the drill.
Yeah, which has nothing to do with that. It doesn't even come up in this episode. For it to be a two-parter, you'd think that would be, hinted at or something. Like there would be some big project in the background. But
it's literally just Suki saying one thing about they're working on something.
It's very strange. But yeah, the gang gets to the bay, and we see all the refugees kind of piling up. But then we cut to the actual ferry itself, and the arrival of Zuko and Iroh to it.
Mm-hmm. This is like Iroh's brooding moment where he talks about like his past. I never thought I'd return as a tourist. This is what we're doing. Right.
Yeah, his humor is very. I mean, it's standard Iroh, obviously, but it's very. I don't want to say one note because that implies it's way worse than I actually visualize it. But it's very similar and similar in these next few episodes. He stays very very staid for the moment, and then until we get the heavy emotional stuff that comes later on, and both attached just to him by himself and obviously his relationship to Zuko. So he kind of just plateaus for a bit here for me, which is in no way a bad thing because standard Iroh is still great, but there's less of the kind of wise Iroh speeches for a while.
And that soup really has to be terrible for Zuko to throw it away because he was going to eat birdseed back in Zuko alone. Like he was okay with doing that. So the fact that he throws this out, it has to just be awful.
Also, it's kind of funny that they're like hurting for food and they just left. It's like, did you guys eat before you left? It only seems like it'll take a day to get across.
Yeah, maybe I did question that myself as well. Yeah, but then again, these are royals, so they're probably used to a bit more than they otherwise should.
Well,
so, how long has it actually been at this point, Antoine? How long has it been that they've been living rough?
Oh, see, I don't know quite. I haven't done book 2 yet. I know what you're alluding to, but I haven't done book 2 yet, so I don't know.
We'll know that at some point, people. Look to his channel.
Well, I probably will. By the time this comes out, I probably will know that.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, look to his channel for that if it has come out. But yeah, he said they've had good meals since becoming, roughing it, obviously, but that was a while ago still. So anyway,
I do like the pairing of Zuko and Jet. I think that's a natural fit. So like when Jet comes up and goes like, yeah, they're eating pretty up there. Like you want to like come in with us? It's like that. Yeah, he would totally say yeah, and they would totally team up in the situation.
And he is attempting to go, as they put it, go straight at this point. But I like that it's not clean, straight as an arrow. They've just dialed it back a bit on the insane.
They're trying to be Robin Hood.
Yeah,
which is,
what they were supposed to be in the initial impression. Yeah. So like
they're not all here though, right? Like there's only a few of them.
Yeah, just the three of them. Smellerbee, Longshot,
they left
Jet.
all the like irrelevant ones, but like the ones that
Going forward, is that it? I thought they came back at some point.
No, they vanish off.
I just have no idea why.
Someone's got to protect the village. That'll be the reason. It's fine.
The village that's like underwater. That village.
Help rebuild then. Same difference.
But it's cool also because the scar comes up later, but I just in watching the scene before that scene came up, I was thinking, oh wow, yeah, it's good that Zuko does have a scar because he does have a way of saying like, yeah, I was also attacked by the Fire Nation and they fucking suck, versus it being like oh yeah, you must be that prince or whatever. So I think that works really well.
The scar carries him a long way in the Earth Kingdom, doesn't it? It's like, oh yep, he's clearly not Fire Nation.
Well, because
Amon uses the same thing too.
Oh no, it's not a criticism. It's just a really good ticket for him. It actually does work while he's in this area.
He does. There are like distinctive ethnic,
features.
Looks. Yeah, like for the palest skin and the golden eyes and like the dark like hair. Like he does look Fire Nation, but I mean, it kind of, even if he still looks like he's been like wronged by them. Like
or you can play into that too by saying that because there are a lot of colonies now, there probably is a lot of like ethnic mixing between the two groups. So he also can say, oh yeah, like my dad was, my mom, something like that.
Because I don't think even at the end of it, I'm pretty sure that Jet doesn't say those guys are Fire Nation. He goes, they're firebenders.
Yeah,
he says they're firebenders, and that's
it's a point I wanted to make on that one because I really like that touch. Because as you say, Antoine, but especially considering it's the Earth Kingdom, there are so many colonies specifically attached to this nation. It makes sense that the whole ethnicity thing wouldn't be as much of a red flag as it could otherwise be. I like that side. But yeah, also we get the reintroduction of my cabbages.
Yeah,
he's returning here.
This is his fourth appearance?
Third or fourth? I think
third or fourth. Okay.
Third major anyway.
For sure.
He was in Omashu. Yeah. He was in the pirate episode.
Village. Yeah.
We'll be told in the comments, I'm sure. And the gang has no passports. Toph Beifongs her way through the situation, but ultimately it comes to naught because obviously they face the issue with the Hope family.
I always enjoyed that little bit of comedy with the whatever she is, the gate attendant. Like
she's cool. Even the spit, like they had a really good job with the beat of it.
She does that because she stamps Aang's head, saying no, like and like stamps his head, and she spits, and then the next thing you see is him wiping like the smudge away. But I think he used her slobber. Is the way it's played. So that's gross.
She reminds me of a kind of early stage Earth Queen as well. Like she's got a lot of that to her.
But that can play into it because it could be a cultural thing. That Bossing say that you have these kind of bougie people who are like that.
Just be as unreasonable as possible and like really Bossing say.
We even get another example of that in the next episode as well. So it's not like it's unique to this one.
To a degree, yeah.
Not to the same extent, of course, but it's similar sort of played in. But Suki arrives is the main point of this scene. Surprising Sokka, who is very slow to catch on. But,
this is like
I didn't know her either.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a fun reveal in that I don't imagine most kids who watched this did know that was Suki.
For sure. No, I was talking specifically in the scene.
Like, I don't know.
In terms of the execution of the episode, I really enjoyed it as well because again, as you say, this was so long ago that would have seen that original episode. But for the character, it's like it wasn't actually that long ago, and she left a pretty big impression on him. So it was more of an in-universe comment than a criticism of the presentation as a whole. I like the presentation, if nothing else, just from the way it's played as like a humor moment. It blends the humor and the emotion of it together very effectively, which works well because Sokka.
Why is she here though? Like I know she said she wanted to go like help.
Just doing her part, I think, and this is where it ended up.
Like attendant, is that what she's doing?
Well, she's protecting the refugees, isn't she? If they got attacked,
in case any fighters show up.
It's a pretty hefty target. If they wanted to kind of go for him, so that was the impression I got anyway. But she abandons her post for the gang,
right?
At least temporarily.
That's okay. She has
just for a few days.
Oh yeah, it's only for a short time. It's temporary. Because the rest of them are. You don't see them in this episode, right? But we see them in the one with Appa.
Yeah, they're still with her. She even mentions them in this episode. The rest of the other Kyoshi Warriors as well. But I do like the fact that she doesn't stay with the gang as well. This would have been a good moment for her to jump back in and become a part of Team Avatar, fully. But I like that she doesn't. I like that she stays for the duty and the fact that she's got to lead these people. I like the way they frame that.
I forgot what I was going to say.
It could be about Sokka being worried because that's his whole thing is that even though he knows Suki's a badass warrior, he's still like, I don't know if you should come with us, even though it's like...
And it's, I like how it's rooted in something that he actually experienced, but he doesn't actually say, well, I was involved with someone in between, us and now, but like she's kind of the moon now, so we don't talk about it. But that is the reason why he's afraid, is because
it's kind of whenever he's out, like the time he kissed her, if the moon's out,
we'll get to that scene. We'll get to that scene in a bit, but I love that moment.
He's like, whenever I'm with anyone, I have to go indoors.
But
I have to.
I like the way this sets everything because they're explaining things to Suki. They kind of re-going over some of the information. They're going over the fact that they've lost Appa, the fact that they've got to get across the pass and everything. I like the way it's done in the kind of natural dynamic conversation they have up in this kind of tower post. I like the way it was framed.
It's also funny with her being like, "Oh, I'm coming with you guys," and he's like, "No, like, yeah, excited, yeah, I am." And she's like, "I thought you'd be like glad." Yeah, I am. It's just
I don't want you to die
or
become the moon or anything.
But when he does it like later with the moon sequence, sorry, not to go out of order, but it actively reminded me of him saying, "Oh, I'm confused, Princess Yue. Why are you like sometimes with me and sometimes not?" He's doing the exact same thing. Like he connects himself to the exact same level of confusing for poor Suki.
Yeah, and I like that it comes from a place of earnestness with him. It's not like, as we've said before, he's very much aware that she is the badass warrior that she is. It's not in any way that she doubts her at all. It's just that it doesn't matter how good you are, there's still that element of risk, and he doesn't like to face that right now for obvious reasons.
It just gives him credence. It really wouldn't matter if he did doubt it because she's way better than him anyway, so whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just strengthens the kind of bond they have and his perspective on things, and adds a little, tugs on the heartstrings more as well, because like, oh god, yeah, that's something we all face, that risk of loved ones. But
I really do like the design of the Serpent's Pass itself, though. Like it's a cool, it's like a mountain range that's kind of developing in the middle. It's like what do they call those? Convergent plate. Or I guess the impression to me is that it's a convergent plate, and that's the reason why the mountain range is coming up in the middle of the
I kind of expected it to be more serpenty.
Right.
Yeah, I like the Yeah, it's like, why do they call it the Serpent's Pass? I like the idea of that, the fact that they've played with the geography and the kind of the mythology of the local region. It's 'cause it's not exactly difficult to piece together, is it? You know, Serpent's Pass. It's not looking like a serpent, therefore it must be, you know, have something to do with a giant serpent. It's water. Why wouldn't it be? But at the same time, the question is there, so it's just a nice playing with it and poking fun at that idea. It's cool.
I think maybe they're thinking like, what are the odds that we have to deal with like another one? Like back in
it's even referenced as well. Yeah, when it comes out. What, you just assume because I live near the Unagi, I must know things about serpents?
I have to say,
yes,
that's a fair enough assumption because she's lived with that thing like right off the coast forever. So you know,
and it literally hosed her village down when it was on fire. So you know, we know that it has at least some. Granted, that was with Aang manipulating it, of course, but still, it must have some form of serious presence in the area. So yeah, someone would learn about it, you'd think.
Also, the Fire Nation is kind of jerks because they just attack refugees just trying to walk past. It's like, what are you guys doing?
People are walking across the pass.
They have a big secret to protect. It's a very big fat secret. You're not allowed in, you know, even though you're pregnant and harmless. But, yeah.
Well, to be fair, they don't know that part, but still, yeah, they know it could be. Yeah,
but I mean, what else?
It is ridiculous.
It is what it is. Yeah. But anyway, it's desperate people trying to get to like the worst city on Earth or Earth, Avatar world, whatever.
Oh, sorry, just a little bit rewinding a second. But when they're leaving the bay before they reach Serpent's Pass, I noticed a very obvious ad break. And I know that they tend to be obvious in cartoons, and even in Avatar in general. But this one in particular, what stood out to me because immediately following this, the usual fade to black cut they had Sokka reiterating his usual complaints that he'd just said beforehand.
Yeah, because when you come out of the commercial break, they assume, you might have forgotten a little bit.
Or you're re-jumping in for the first time and stuff, so you want to be free-framed. So I understand why it happened, but it was very like, oh, God, that was very clear and stark from what they usually do with Avatar. So worthy of note for me. One of those
I wonder when the show like spiked in viewership or like how many people started watching as of this episode. Maybe that was calculated for that reason because they marketed this a lot. I remember back like
generally with series that get popular, it's in the second series or the second book, whatever, when like things ramp and that kind of thing. So it's very possible that was the case.
And they definitely knew they had something big at this point in the series because they'd already, I think they'd already greenlit the third one, right, by this stage, if they hadn't already.
Well, they definitely knew they were gonna. They definitely set it up because like book 2 ends Empire Strikes Back style, like with everything in disarray, and we have to come back to finish this.
I would even say probably book 1 midway through probably got approved because then they had Zhao talking about the library he found under the ground, like right before book 2 even.
They
happened.
definitely had the concept, yeah, for sure.
Where are we? Sorry, I jumped us back again. We attacked by the Fire Nation ship. Yeah, attacked by the Fire Nation ship, and then we cut away from them. We go and Jet doing the
only thing I really have to say about that was I liked listening to it, like the muted footsteps and stuff, and like I think it would have been a fun scene to work on, like the clinking of the cups that he like stacks up. It would have been like fun as like a sound design perspective, like to work on that episode, I think, or that part of the episode. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, the visual as well, when they were using the kind of fine movements of the weapons to kind of stack the plates and stuff, and I like the. It felt very capery, you know. It was a very small moment, not really relevant to the overall episode, but it was a good. They made good use of the time of what they had there. And with only just the two of them, right? It was just Jet. Obviously, the arrow was shot up, but it was just Jet and Zuko,
right?
Were they?
Oh, because the other guy had he gave him like the line.
Yeah, and then they went in.
It was a team effort, but then they were the ones that actually went into.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was those two. I can't remember, but it was a good way of bonding those, regardless, even if they were as present. So it kind of gave them that connection for the episodes moving forward, and which kind of soured very quickly. It's a nice mini arc between those two. Introduction, getting along, offering the hand, and then suspicioning, then craziness.
And then the next scene is probably my favorite in the episode, not just for like the content, but just like the animation and the shot selections and stuff like that. Because you have Aang and Katara like on the cliffside, and then dark ocean in the background. But she's talking about him like having him promise her that he won't stop caring. Like not just to shut yourself out completely, but it's just like framed in like this really really nice close up that. The show is actually, generally speaking, sometimes kid shows will just have close-ups all the time, but this show does a good job of playing to the wides, mids, and close. And when you see something close, you're like, okay, this is something I should be like, really focusing in on. And in particular, you have this thing with like Katara, and you have like the ocean in the background. I thought it was really, really good.
Well, they don't just do it for the budget on this show, that's for sure. They space it
right, because it's easier to do close-ups because then you don't have to worry about animating
and then mouth flaps being the only thing that moves.
But even when he refuses the hug. or doesn't really refuse it, but just doesn't offer.
Right.
That's done like from like far off, so it's like it's to reflect the distance between them and him being distanced. There's a language to film, like I mean, and it's just they know it, like, and they're using it basically.
It's always been fascinating to me because there's no real reason for that to actually have a thing. The fact that they're further away should not invoke necessarily a cognitive response, but you kind of in the back of your mind you're feeling it. It's all just subconscious, and they're playing with that.
You didn't notice it, but your brain did.
Precisely.
I can't do the accent that he does on Red Letter Media.
But see, it's like that's what you mean, like, or when you say there's no reason, Callum. It's like there is a reason. You just you won't ever understand it. Just accept that you won't understand it because it is a thing.
For sure. That's what I'm saying. It's subconscious. They play with that, but you could never really explain why that's the case.
No,
it's just that parallel. Yeah. It's just odd. It's one of those things that just is, and you have to accept it and play with it as they have. But I also like the fact that, again, going back to the relation to him using his teachings, he kind of takes a step back and goes, "Thank you for your concern," and he gives that Jedi-esque front of just emotionlessness, and he's not being callous or cruel. He's being perfectly polite, but
he's not being Aang.
but it's not being Aang. Yeah, precisely, and that really hurts her. In the same way that his rage and his loss of control that he's trying to avoid with the Avatar does. A different flavor, but still the same kind of distance between.
But before she even butt in, he wasn't being Aang. Like, I'm going to go be mysterious.
Yeah, I'm going to brood. It was a Tyrion.
That might work for Aang because, Zuko.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I've been learning from Zuko how to be cool.
Oh god, he looks like.
Now, Callan, you say you like Sokka in terms of all the couples in the series. That Sokka and Suki is one of your favorites. So this is one of the particular scenes that develops that relationship. So I would like to hear a little bit from you because personally, for me, I still don't really buy into like the quickness of it of like, oh, we just saw each other again and like,
it's definitely not perfect. I would never argue otherwise, but to me, for one thing, it's definitely the best they've ever got. Like, in terms of all the romantic relationships they've done in Avatar, or even Korra in this regard, it's the best they've come. But at the same time, Avatar is not about the romance. It's never been the strength of the show. But for me, this is the strongest part of it when you are looking at it. And while I completely agree, they do rush straight into it again. I can understand why, because in terms of actual time, it's not been that long since they've seen each other. The age range they're at, they're not like the sort of people where these kind of connections are just going to disappear overnight. And also from a practical standpoint, time frame, they don't have long enough to spend kind of reconnecting with these one episode they've got, unless they want Suki to come along for a while. So I kind of forgive that obvious flaw and give them the due what they've played with the time they've been given, because I think they do a good job of kind of reconnecting them with with the limited amount of time they do have. The specific scenes they show with the concern, and then coming up with the moon scene we'll get to in a second. In particular, they make good use of their time and the lines they have, and there's no wasted kind of fluff here, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that, because like I never had a problem really with the Sokka Yue thing until you guys all talked about it. I was like, oh yeah. Like what? But so, and this at least has roots in that we've met before, and we've like kind of taught you like the basics of like how to fight. I taught you how not to be horrible and sexist. Like you've been to my village now twice. Not that she knows the second time. But and he was clearly been thinking about her. Like, I remember
even then, he's looking over the shoulder and seeing the hut, or the dojo, I should say. And we get that reflection from him.
It's fast, but I mean, I think it's partly because of how little Suki's in the show. Because she doesn't, like you said, she doesn't stay, and she doesn't come back again till like mid book 3 at some point.
Yeah, and what I like most about this scene though is that he doesn't initiate the kiss and they don't go straight into it. Like, he has to process it and think about it a little bit. And that's probably
the Moonlight scene itself,
particularly the most,
Yeah, the Moonlight scene itself is a whole other bag of issue. I thought you were just talking about the concerned moment.
No, that's where we are right now.
The Moonlight scene as well. The whole, like, every layer of that, I love. The fact that they're coming to each other as they're communicating, for one, which cannot be overstated how little that happens on screen in shows. They're not just talking about, oh, I love you so much. No, we need to get back together. They're actually talking as friends, like getting across the level of comfort and reaching out to one another. And when the other person isn't reciprocating, like, why? What's wrong? I didn't mean to make them comfortable. All of the stuff, the natural dynamic elements that are being played with here make sense and feel real and are coming off all on the backbone of the fact that the moon's right behind them. You know, they're playing again with every little bit of detail they can in what is it, like a minute at most, that scene.
I like all that. I was just thinking about like how many, because he it's not been that long since he even interacted with Yue in the sense of like the swamp. You know what I mean? And then in the next episode, we could talk about it later, but in the drill, like when Ty Lee makes it's the Avatar and his friends.
He's like,
hello. He's like, hey, how's it going? Like he kind of like picks up, he follows it, he perceives it. He's like, were you just with Suki like 5 hours ago? Like, wait a second. You know?
Everyone loves
he might have
Sokka.
been doing it for show. But he came off as like, hey, what's up? You know,
it's just bashful. Yeah, everyone loves Sokka for some reason. He's got the weird magnetism in this show.
Yeah.
Oh no, not that wrong word.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like he's just kind of going with it. Is what I mean. But yeah, it's weird. Everyone loves the Sokka, but I just love that scene in particular. I use that's the peak of romance for me for Avatar. It doesn't get any better than that, and I like that it happened in such a short space of time. You know, this was not a Sokka Suki. That was not a ship
Wait
name.
a minute.
So that should be a thing.
I don't know. Is it? What is there one actually?
That probably would be it.
Saki.
That would work. But I don't. If it is Suka, that wasn't intentional. But Sokka and Suki, it's not their episode, you know. So
it's probably Saki. Like it would be Saki because Sokka first, also Saki. But not that.
Also Saki.
But
essentially. But yeah, it's just the fact that the episode isn't dedicated to them, and it still managed to kind of thread this line alongside without hindering the actual plot of the episode, which is interesting. You know, it's not really a deep plot at all in any way, but it's still engaging, and there's a lot of adventure and action attached to it. So to have this kind of very very quiet, emotional, breathing points listed throughout, be it Aang or be it the relationship between these two, it's very effective for me. And it's a romantic scene, it's a really good romantic scene on just the base level. They're moonlit, a bit awkward because of the moon, but stars, moon, nighttime.
Yeah. And again, like I said, he's acting like Yue as Yue's watching.
Yeah,
I mean, but no, I can't. But
sending mixed signals. But she's being respectful of that. It's a good lesson for these kids that they're going to be watching this, and it's not Twilight. Ugh.
Oh, they didn't learn it. They didn't learn.
Like, how dare you reject me? It's like, no, okay, I'll get face,
But have you seen this generation? I don't think that they've learned the lesson. Anyway, so then we switch back to
the ship again. Right?
This is where Iroh assumes Smellerbee's gender.
This is a point I made. I think I messaged to you, Antoine, after I saw this scene. Is she a girl or is she not?
You don't know?
I didn't question. I assumed she was always throughout the way I'd thought about it for the entire time I've watched this until this latest viewing is that she's a girl that seems like a boy, right?
Right.
But then I thought, wait, is she?
But it could be the case where she could be trans because they have alluded to that kind of a thing. Like, and I do enjoy the series for its outreach for inclusion and that kind of. I mean, I don't always agree with the execution for the way they do it, but
if I don't know if claim that that's the case, I'm calling so much bullshit. Because like seems so retroactive to me. Like, well, that's the Rowling thing. Like I want credit for this thing that I did not write about. Like in like after the point.
In this instance, in this
instance, they actually bring up that idea because she says like, I know who I am. That kind of a thing. But I think. Not thinking too much into it, I think it's just that she's a girl that looks like a boy, and she's trying to be comfortable with that. But I can see the other way around of it too.
That's what I've always taken from it. But on the last viewing we watched here with the analysis head on, when that moment happened, when she is talking about what it matters on the inside, I thought, wait, is this like an early one of those? Because if it is, which I don't think it is personally, it doesn't play that way to me. If it is, then I think it's a good example of it because it's so ambiguous and vague that they're not beating you over the head with it. As so many outreaches into the land of diversity are, as well-meaning and well-intentional and as outwardly good they are, they can be very like down your throat with it sometimes. Which this definitely
you're not the only one. Reddit also thinks that too. There was people on Reddit that were wondering. Also, upon rewatch, was like, "Wait, is Smellerbee trans?" I mean, it's up in the air, and I think it works either way. Honestly,
I think it does.
And that's good that it could be that way. It's not like a distinct answer. It's just like, and if you are a trans person, you can identify with that. If you're not, then it's just like, oh, it's just a girl that has trouble identifying because she herself doesn't look like a girl. Whichever way it works,
it
and
works
it's probably better that
yeah.
way because it can be interpreted more broadly.
Yeah, more broadly, and it doesn't distract from the actual purpose of the scene or the plot.
Right.
You know, it's not being thrown down your throat. There are subtleties to these that I think a lot of modern works are kind of disregarding. With again good intentions. I think that
I'm skeptical as hell on that. But that's just me. I'm the one. What's it called? The dissenting opinion. Because like she's voiced by a girl, says she's a girl, and I think looks enough like a girl.
When I was that's a kid, what just used to call it. Is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But when I was
but that's good that we're having this conversation because that's what this theme kind of does.
When you look like one and are one, and
no, not when you look like one, but when you feel like one. Because that's the whole reason why she was mistaken. Because I mean,
is it okay to like just be a tomboy anymore, or do you have to be making a statement?
Well, no, but that's the point. It's a separate thing. It's not like we're not saying it's one or the other. They're not connected necessarily. I'm just saying that it could be either or on a narrative level. It's not like she's gone one way or the other, and it's people definitely can. I'm not saying otherwise. It's just in this instance, it could go either way that she is just a tomboy and he misunderstood, as people often do. It happens in real life, or it could be the case that she is actually trans and identifies it on a more personal level.
Funny. Twitter also had this discussion where someone straight up was like, Smellerbee is a trans girl, but then someone's like, no, she's just a tomboy, which is exactly.
I mean, it could be either way, and it is. I don't even know if it's a flaw that it's so vague because it definitely, like you said, Antoine, it reaches a broader audience that way. But at the same time, the confusion there is like if whichever way they were trying to go for, it's clearly not fully gone that way. So it's an odd one, but I like.
But I can see how with Matt's critique about the whole J.K. Rowling thing, where you do leave it vague and then later on try to define it, kind of a thing.
That's
like
not
at least say it straight away, or okay.
Yeah, that's not
these
appropriate.
People keep doing that with like the what came up was it was a Kaya in the comic was all of a sudden like I'm totally lesbian and everyone knows it. Fire Nation tried to keep us down, but
that was in the post-core.
That wasn't shown in any way in the original work,
right? But every heroic character is cool with it. It's just that bad old Fire Lord who is like, oppressive.
Who's generically evil, so apparently he also has to be generically, anti-gay.
Again, it's done with the best of intentions 9 times out of 10. It's very sloppy
and that's the thing. They always have good intentions.
Yeah,
it's the
execution.
I don't agree with sometimes.
And I say this as somebody who does not hate Korosami on principle. Like it wasn't executed.
I'm the same.
But it's like I've got no problem with that being a thing. Okay, I just want to say that. Even though I have problems with the way it was done, but yeah, I don't hate the idea of it.
I actively like the idea because of the chemistry those two characters have. They just didn't do anything with it leading up to it. I was like, that makes perfect sense if you did something with it ahead of time, but only more than they did anyway. But yeah, anyway, that's Korra. So tangent aside, but it's worth noting because I'd never actually considered it before. I thought, oh, hang on, is this more than I originally thought it was, or is it just happened to feel that way?
No, it just surprised me when you brought it up because my head didn't even go there. I just like,
me too. When he first brought it, I was like,
and again, I stressed that's what I thought. Like, she is just a tomboy to me, but then I thought, am I misinterpreting that? Or it's probably the modern age because if we look back on this 10 years ago, probably wouldn't even enter into our mind. But society has made drastic step forwards in the past decade, even more even.
But yeah, and I just want to say if you are trans, that's cool. I didn't mean to like insult you or anything. I hope I didn't come across as that.
I don't think you did. But yeah, it's interesting on an artistic level which way they were going for, and the fact that we can't tell. So it's not very often that happens. So it's interesting to mention or discuss. Where were we though in the sequencing?
Then after that point,
well, I mean, it's just Jet talking to Zuko about, things can be better.
We didn't even talk about the scene, like the actual point of it.
Yeah, because that was like an aside to the scene, but not the actual.
A literal aside. Yeah, taken aside. And I love the Iroh's reaction to it as well. I was like, oh, sorry, is typical Iroh-ness. But new beginnings and Boston say is the main point.
I gotta know what this is that I'm sitting next to. Let me just ask the question. 50-50 shot. Wrong. But yeah, Jet is talking with Zuko, and we can skip over that. Right. So we're back with the gang.
Right, and it's the sequence. It's the action sequence.
I like what they.
Really dope. It was like when I first saw it, I was like, "Whoa, is she doing a?" Oh my god, I forgot the freaking biblical Moses. Is she doing a Moses thing right
parting the Red Sea.
Like, okay, good. It's not. She's not doing. That
would be over the top at this stage in her life.
Oh yeah, but she's doing a believable version of it.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Do they do? No, they don't really do this again, do they? She does Appa. She does something with Appa but I think it's not really like a full bubble. It's just like his face.
I think it's just over his face. Yes, so
and the backpack.
Something like this
saddle
happens.
thing,
It might be Korra, actually. I think Tenzin does something with air at some point that I'm thinking of. But anyway,
but regarding
she's Mosesing.
regarding the scene in particular though, that I like is that it's kind of the different sequences. There's a lot of individual moments that happen here on top of one another without making it feel cluttered or over the top. Like they have the bubble initially when they're going through the water, it gets broken up and they have the lift up into the ocean surface, the frozen bridge across, the Katara leaps off, having made the bridge and helped to rejoin the action with Aang, even though Aang was originally just supposed to take the creature by itself in the first stage of the plan. You know, everyone's doing something, more than one thing even, in different sequences, and it never feels over the top or cluttered. It works, it flows, everyone's getting the right bits of dialogue in. I found it really engaging and didn't let up the pace the entire time.
It's a nice sense of wonder too, because it's good to just sometimes just like sit in the world and be like, oh yeah, they can totally do this thing. And it's one of my favorite sequences in The Prince of Egypt. Which what good studio? I always assumed that was Disney, but it's not.
It was DreamWorks.
It's DreamWorks.
One of their best.
That's one of their best movies.
One of their best by far.
Yeah. Oh god, easily. But that sequence, it's like the same thing where they see like the fish and the whales like behind and you have that same sequence here with the fish and Momo trying to go grab one. But I like it when we have moments of bending being this, where it's just not combative. It's just kind of just like, oh, this is the world, and it's like, look how wonderful this looks. You know, wonder is always nice to have.
One of the other ones they did, Sinbad, was very similar in this one in regards because of the water. The water bubble was they play with the things you can do with water with animation in general are just magical and kind of lead to that wonder aspect. But just the cool factor as well. You know, Katara jetboarding straight off of the bridge towards to help Aang. Just that was a really cool.
Yeah, him making an ice surfboard.
Yeah, and it's like jetting off like almost Frozen style. It was just very cool.
Yeah, that was really good. Like I think this has some really really good sequences of action for sure.
I just like how that to me also is like I can buy that for her. I don't think that it was really cool and advanced, but it didn't feel like Impossible Master level for me.
Exactly.
It was awesome, but something about it, because I could buy like somebody who's just prodigious and has like youthful energy and just trying to get something done. So I'm just gonna make like a jet ski now. And, like, just throw like she's very agile as a person, but there's nothing about that I find stretches belief.
Yeah, it's not so graceful. It's still very raw and like blast of ice and like
she did lots of little things well.
Yeah,
she did lots of little
things
well.
And that's the thing. Like her ice bridge wasn't like a continuous, just huge. Like I just did one motion and it's a whole ice bridge. No, it was like one. Okay, let me go. Two, let me go.
Yeah.
Three. You know, it's all progressive.
And it was only that last portion of the journey across the gap. You know, she didn't just from the very start, like you said, part the Red Sea or ice bridge in one go. Yeah, that would be the master.
Like they could have easily just been like, oh yeah, Toph can totally just raise all the Earth. Like no, she only was able to do that one island. Because
of the obvious like connotation of the height, you know, she could easily do it if it was a very small height difference, but because it was that giant pillar, she had to be at the base to do it. So you know they're playing with all of these cool mechanical ideas without ever actually just here's why I can't do this, here's why I can't do that. You know, it lets you imagine your own reasoning.
I also like that it kind of, with the Toph one especially, it establishes why you still need like an avatar, because the avatar can function in any environment and she can't function here. She's like kind of useless here, which is very rare for Toph, but it can happen, you know? So I like that. And she has some kind of handicap, other than the obvious literal one. You know what I mean?
we always forget that she has that because it's so little, you know, it's so little of one for her. But going to that alongside the awesome action beats, we do get those emotional ones in the middle. It's, you know, not these great deep revelatory ones, but her reaction to like I'm gonna stay here, fine, where I can see. You know, the fear of the water and not being able to swim, not even admitting that until the absolute last moment when she has to.
Until you're about to drown.
Yeah, and just the humor of Sokka, like, I'm coming, Toph, and then Suki just jumps straight in. You know, it's a classic moment for all of the characters involved.
That's one of my favorite things Suki ever does. It's very small, but the thing, like, Sokka's trying to take off his shoes, and she's just like, no, I'm just diving in.
Time.
Yeah.
And she's wearing like
Ravenclaw
her
and
armor,
Gryffindor difference
heavy,
right there.
You know, like it's going to be like sopping wet and heavy, and she's just like, oh, I got a job to do. We don't have time to take off our clothes and and get comfortable for a swim.
It's the difference between a Ravenclaw and a Gryffindor right there for me. It's like both equal level of good in that moment, but one's like thinking, okay, obviously got to do this, right? It's like, nope, you don't. Just plow through. I love it. And obviously the humor of Toph reacting the way she does as well. Oh, well, you can just go ahead and let me drown now.
Tough.
I think that's probably like the most embarrassing it gets for her, and probably ever really. But also until like when she doesn't get her field trip with Zuko. I've always felt bad for that one moment.
I'm with Zuko.
They didn't even do it as a comic either. They had the opportunity in a comic.
He literally is like, we don't have time for this. Just finale we're talking about. We got to go.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we get a few moments of her that are a bit more dark in tone or sad, but this is definitely the lightest example of her embarrassment for sure. But yeah, but just the entire sequence, you know, like I said, talking about the emotional beat, talking about the action, it all really played well. And considering it wasn't really like a high climax, octane stakes moment of an episode, it wasn't like the peak of the episode by any means. It was just the middle ground. They did a really good job with it. Because the serpent wasn't even that relevant. You know, they deal with that comparatively easily. They just kind of slap it in the face and then it goes straight back down, and that's problem solved. But they turned it into this big event without it being a big event, you know, and drowning the rest of the episode.
So then after that's done, she has a name. I see in the note, Ying. She picks like the worst possible moment to go into labor.
Yes, yeah. Sokka reacts appropriately.
She can choose that. But yeah, anyway.
Can't you just hold it in?
Yeah.
Oh, I love your fucking note. Katara delivers hope.
Yes. Yep. I mean, that's literally what she does. You know, it's so on the nose with the naming here. It's like, oh god, could you not? But at the same time, this goes back to one of those things where, especially considering it's a kids show, every show is someone's first. You know, this is a trope. This has been done in everything ever. But at the same time, it may not have been for you at that age when you watched it. You know, this could have been the first time that I encountered that. So I'll forgive it the tropiness. And it does work for the rest of the moment with Aang as well. They played it to his. It wasn't just a case of everything's really dark now and everything's harsh. He's going for a personal struggle, and that helps him through it. So it's, you know, they earn the cheese, in my opinion.
It's kind of like we have notes about every time they say the word hope, really. Because like, remember the Water Tribe like chieftain? He's like, you need to abandon your hope and fucking like. You guys were like, oh, that's the worst speech ever. And I remember later in the next book, at some point when Ozai's got his meeting. And like Ozu was like, you should just burn their precious hope to the ground. You're right. Get rid of their hope. And it's just like, it's always this very on the nose.
But at the same time, what other word do you call it? You know, faith isn't right. So it's one of those kind of one note things. We've got to keep bringing it back to the same concept. So yeah, I can forgive them for it. And as I say, I think the cheese here is earned, despite the fact that it is
I don't
still
have a
cheese.
problem with it. Yeah, I think we should still call it cheesy. But it doesn't
definitely.
offend me at all.
Yeah. I like the small moment, but I like the practical side of it as well. Like the build a big hut, and you know, I've delivered plenty of babies, and just the whole. This is very like hands on and real. You know, this has happened. People have seen this happen all around the world for all humanity. So it's nice that they play it naturally and give it the gravity it deserves at the same time.
Yes.
There's not too much to say about it. Sorry, but I like the moment. And the fact that Sokka pretty much fainted.
So then, like, you know, Aang is hopeful again, because hope has come back into the world. And what's the order of events? At some point, Jet and Zuko have a.
Yeah, it's just that the Jet recruits him.
Or at least tries to. He invites him to join the gang, and then Zuko kind of says, "I'll think about it," and then we get the reiteration of that later in the following episode, because that happens again.
And then at some point they're gonna like split up, and like Suki's gonna go back to whatever she was doing. And,
we get the Suki and Sokka kiss at the end.
Right, they do.
Which
kiss.
is Sokka kind of returning the advances, because at that point he's still been hesitant. So she was like, "Okay, I'll just, I'm sorry, being respectful."
And Aang's like, "I gotta find Appa." But when he leaves, that's when. Bum, bum, bum.
Bum. It's one of the biggest moments of those. When I heard it, I was like, duh, 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 duh. It's like, oh god, okay, yep, enter the Fire Nation, panning shot.
Right. He was gonna go find Appa, but then everything changed when the Fire Nation
precisely. I don't know whether or not it was because of the following episode is the way it is, and we'll get to that in a minute. But this one stood out to me as like, oh, really, guys, you know, this is very much like and then this happens. It was not as clean or elegant as they usually manage.
I think it is because of the content of the next episode, because I remember one of your first notes. So let's go ahead and sign off on this one, and we'll see you guys shortly for a continuation of this discussion
in part 2, which is absolutely and 100% connected to this one in every way, and not just a second follow-on episode unrelated otherwise. I'm ready for, and I still don't have an outro.
Sure he doesn't. Great91, thanks for watching and or listening.
Antoine Vandelay, be water, my friends.
Goodbye.